Hello, people, and we're back with another episode of Control Breakers. Not a lot of news to talk about, so we're going to talk about Naughty Dog.
Yay, we're having a very special episode of Control Breakers.
Dan, we actually have a guest here, and she's from Manic Expression, so instead of me introducing it and butchering it like I do much of anything else, I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey everyone, my name is Patricia Miranda. I am the co-founder of a blog named Old School Lane, and I happen to be a member on manicexpression.com. Currently, we are doing a Nickelodeon tribute, and if you guys are a huge fan of the blog, then definitely check us out. We also have a series of podcasts known as Casual Chats, where we just talk about whatever the fuck. And we also have let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right. We also have Nick Jukebox, where we play all the classic Nickelodeon songs from the 1970s to the 2000s. And we have Turtle Talk, where we talk about all the news regarding about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtles! Yes! I need to get in on that at some point.
Yeah, the episode 3 is actually a really special one because Kevin, who happens to be the co-founder of Old School Lane, and I had the opportunity of interviewing Renee Jacobs, who is the original April O'Neil.
Ooh, yeah. So there's a little bit about her. So like we said, it's going to be a special episode talking about Naughty Dog now. We're not going to go very old school. We're going to start with probably their breakout hit, which would be Crash Bandicoot.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, because if we were to stay here for 20 minutes talking about Rings of Power, Keith the Thief, and Way of the Warrior, you'd just be looking at us and like, what the fuck are they talking about? And they just basically leave.
What are those old people talking about?
I have no idea.
Oh, and just to say, on my end, we had a huge storm today, so you're going to hear a bunch of crackles, and someone might cut out at a certain time because my connection has been crap all day, just to warn you people, so... Yeah,
the duct tape that keeps this podcast together is beginning to fall off.
Oh, well, I upgraded to Elmer's glue.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
So, speaking of Crash Bandicoot, my story with that is, it was one of the first games I ever played on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And, I saw it running when the PlayStation first came out, when I moved to the United States for the first time. So, that game really, to me, was the next step of, like, there was always Mario. Of course I played Mario. But Crash Bandicoot, I just felt like, I was like, okay, this character looks crazy. He has an attitude. He's telling me to eat a pizza backwards and yelling at Nintendo headquarters. I like this guy.
He was the personification of the 90s, although granted this was still at a point in gaming when gaming companies needed animal mascots.
Oh, yeah.
And he was that for Sony.
Yeah, pretty much, because at the time, Sony didn't have a mascot, and they thought that Crash Bandicoot would be the perfect mascot to basically show it into Mario's face, like, we're the hip, cool stuff for the kids.
But we all remember how hip, cool characters went. People, that's what Sonic's deal was. He was cool, and now we all remember what happened to Sonic.
Yes. Although he is getting a little bit of redemption with Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations.
I hear
think,
good things.
Like, my issue with what happened with Crash Bandicoot was a travesty, when he got sold off to Activision, and that's where the rape started.
Yeah, more the Michael Baying of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a fan of Crash 1. I think Crash 2 is probably my favorite, though. Cortex Strikes Back. I absolutely love that one. And I even liked 3, Warped. Racing was fun. I think all the Crash games had something unique to them.
Now, this is where I get to be the weirdo and say I actually played more Warped than I did anyone else. It was actually the first game I ever borrowed from a friend. I can still remember that awesome first boss battle against, Tiny in the Coliseum.
Oh, God, that's so good.
That's one of my favorite boss battles of all time.
Same here, definitely. I also am a huge fan of Warped because I feel that it was able to take everything from Crash Bandicoot and it was able to give it a lot more diversity and a lot more things to do. Like, for example, you can be able to control Coco over the Great Wall of China. And also you get to use a bazooka, which was amazing.
Yes, that shot apples, yes.
Oh, it's such good stuff. I'm actually one of those people that, when I first bought the PlayStation, what was it? PlayStation Portable, that's what it was. Jesus Christ, I'm blanking here. I bought that, and automatically I went to the store and bought, of course, the Crash games. And that's, I'm going to play. I always keep them on there because if I want some fun, you turn that on. It never gets old. It's just pure entertainment. Like, this is in an age where I felt gaming was like They didn't need like crazy stories or all this back. It's just like you're a goddamn Bandicoot, jump on shit and do elbow drops. It felt good.
And that Cortex guy is a taint. Kick him in the face.
Yes, and also collect voodoo masks for basically being invincible for a brief period. Ooga ooga.
So good. Now, Naughty Dog, of course, then went on to the PlayStation 2, and they gave us Jak and Daxter. Now, before we start, I have to admit, never played it.
You heathen! You get the fuck out, Army!
Dude, I was looking at the freaking HD remix today at GameStop, and I would have bought it had it not been the last copy that's behind the shelf that's open, because those are the store-borrowed copies that they let the employees take, and I never take it. I know because I worked as an assistant manager at GameStop. I was so close, but they only had one copy. I promise I'm going to get to it at some point in my life.
Yeah, freaking Jak and Daxter, the first one, the Precursor Legacy, will always have a special place in my heart because it was the first PS2 game I ever bought for myself.
Ooh.
I can still remember it, oh yeah.
Mr. Moneybags.
Mr. Moneybags here. I saved my pennies, I scrimped and I saved.
Can you describe what it's even about? Because one of my friends, who's probably one of my best friends, swears by that's one of the best series ever made. And I'm just like, I don't know, never played it.
Sure, I'd love to. Go ahead, Joel.
I was going to say, I'll let you jump in too on this. What Jak and Daxter is actually changes immensely in between games. It's probably one of the most interesting examples of a video game series that changed to match what was popular in gaming at the time, and yet still very much retained its identity. The first one...
I will ask, how does it compare to a series I love, which is Ratchet and Clank?
It's funny, they were actually diametrically opposed for the longest time. They were like...
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were like the Mario and Sonic of their day. I will say this one, in that battle, I definitely got more behind Jak and Daxter, but that's just me.
That is a good question because, you see, with Ratchet and Clank, they're able to improve themselves at every single game. They have, the increased life, they have the weapon upgrades, and also they have themselves, like, memorable characters, and they sort of have, like, an episodic story. With Jak and Daxter, on the other hand, it was actually a continuing story. The first game almost resembles Banjo-Kazooie, in which...
Oh, very much.
In which basically, instead of collecting, like the usual coins that you would in, like Super Mario Brothers or the puzzle pieces, you were actually collecting what was called precursor orbs, which were like egg-shaped artifacts, and you used them to buy power cells. Now, with power cells, they were used to power up precursor technology. Precursors are actually the gods of the world, and they developed this sort of source called eco. Eco is a source that is used for multiple things. Blue eco makes you go fast, red eco makes you stronger, yellow eco makes you shoot out some sort of like energy, green eco heals you, and then dark eco basically kills you. In the beginning of the game, Jak and Daxter, they wander into this mysterious island that they were forbidden to go to. And Daxter actually falls into the dark eco pit, and instead of killing him, he turns into an ottsel, which is a combination of a weasel and an otter. And the whole point of the game is for him to turn back by visiting the dark eco sage named Gaul. And
now, I got a question about that.
Yep.
One of the things, like, I love the Sly Cooper thing.
Okay.
I know you
the
do.
only one I really like is the first one, because I felt it was structured, it was linear, it felt like Crash Bandicoot. Now, does it actually do the thing where it goes free roam at some point? Because that's what
does.
I stopped playing Sly Cooper once it went free roam, because that just completely turned me off.
It goes free roam, but let me blow your mind. Jak was mostly a silent character. Well, he was a silent character in Jak and Daxter. Jak 2 is where things got dark and gritty. They gave him guns, it got very Grand Theft Auto, and they were flung into the future. Here's the crazy thing, though. It actually retained its identity and actually became the next thing, where you were flying hover cars and stuff in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there was
insane.
Swearing as well.
Yeah, there was.
There was swearing, and the first words that Jak had ever said was, "I'm going to kill Praxis." And Baron Praxis is the main villain. He's basically like this dictator who rules like this really dark, gringy city known as Haven City.
Haven City.
Yes, and he joins in organization that wants to take down the Baron called the Underground. And the whole point of Jack 2 is that they're trying to get home back to their time period, but then along the way there are so many things going on, like Jack and Daxter trying to meet the leader of the group called the Shadow, and then there's then you get your first gun, which is amazing because in the first game it was light, it was happy, but
it was
in the
a
second game it was
character-based platformer. Yeah, the second one goes all Grand Theft Auto very quickly.
Huh.
Yeah, pretty much, because when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, platformers just couldn't be about one thing. They had to go through multiple things.
It seems like after Grand Theft Auto, everything had to do,
Yes, it
that.
And let me blow your mind once more. Jack 3 goes all Mad Max.
Oh.
Yeah, you're
See,
out in
now
the
I just might
wasteland.
have to play this damn thing.
You kind of have to play. Like, we can't really do it justice explaining it. But, even still, it's funny and it's endearing and, it's action-packed. There's a lot of really great stuff. And I'll also go on a limb, too, and say Jack 2 is fucking hard.
Oh, man. One of the most difficult games that came out in the last decade. Almost like Dark Souls hard.
It's controller snapping hard. One of the early on missions is you got to take a delivery to a bar down in the docks and whatever. The time limit is insane. Actually having to pilot the vehicle is crazy. It is one of the most controller snapping experiences I think I've ever had playing a game on the PS2. But once you beat it, you feel like a boss. Once you
That's nothing. What about the mission in which you had to find you had to find the piece at the slums, and you had to escape from the Crimson Guards, and they're all over your ass. It's tight. It's constricted, and there's water surrounded all over it.
Also suffer from the PS2 era. The camera is kind of wonky, because nothing irks me more than a bad camera in a tight situation. And when we get to the next game series we're going to talk about, I'll address that. But that's really one thing when I go play older games now. It's just the controls at some games completely ruined experience for me.
Huh. No, I would say for the most part, the camera was actually really good in the series. Something that's been true of pretty much all of Naughty Dog's games. A really good camera.
Yeah, pretty much so. And Jack 3 definitely fixes the issues that Jack 2 did.
People arguably say they made it easier.
Yeah, they did say it made it easier, but I say it made it more balanced.
Yeah, I would agree. I would totally agree with that. I mean, there's a lot more car combat and stuff in there, which is really fun. The actual vehicle-based stuff. Really good. You get this dune jumping sand buggy. Like you're doing platforming but with a vehicle. It's like some Fast and the Furious stuff. It's actually really fun.
Okay, I'll definitely go back and play at some point when I have time.
Oh, and I'll mention this briefly too, because again, I've played every Jack game. Combat racing, because this seems to be a popular thing for Naughty Dog.
I'm still waiting for Uncharted Racing, you sons of bitches.
They might as well. Because
I want a Sully mustache car.
As do I. Because this seems to be a popular thing for Naughty Dog, where it's like, hey, Crash was our boy and we loved him, then we shipped him off to a racing game, now he's done. Same with Jack. He was our golden boy and we loved him, then we put him in a racing game. A really fun, really awesome racing game, by the way. Then he was mostly done except for a couple PSP outings.
Okay.
We don't talk about those. Especially the Lost Frontier.
Covered the obligatory racing. Let's go on to my favorite Naughty Dog series. Okay, Joel, start your grumbling. Uncharted.
I enjoy the Uncharted series. I just don't love it.
I gotta be a hipster because it's so good and has such good scores. I gotta harp on it because I'm Joel.
I just don't love it as much as everyone else.
No, it's only the definition of going, perfection this generation. But I'm Joel. I gotta hate it.
I'm too cool for this. I'm gonna drink my PBR and comb my mustache.
Okay, so here's the thing. This came out. I got the PlayStation in the launch window, the PlayStation 3. But when Uncharted came out the next summer, this was like the most mind-blowing thing I've ever played.
This was Sony showing off. This is like, hey, look at what our machine can do.
Right, not only that, the setting, because I love Indiana Jones, I love Tomb Raider, and I was like, okay, this can't be as good as Tomb Raider. But man, did they destroy that series in one
It's a
swoop.
better Tomb Raider than Tomb Raider has been in a long time, and that's
Are
so
you
sad.
kidding me? I mean, you remember the previous Tomb Raider games? What they did is that they tried to do the exploration, but the main focus on why Tomb Raider, quote unquote, has not held up well was that it was all about sexifying Lara
Oh,
Croft.
yes.
Right.
It was
Mhm.
all about making her sexy. I mean, gameplay kind of came second, and even if you play the original Lara Croft Tomb Raider games, the controls are a bit clunky.
Bringing it to that, just like when you bring it to the new Tomb Raider, which coincidentally tries to Uncharted
It
itself,
tries to be more
it
like
fails
Uncharted.
hardcore because they can't do it right, because they don't understand what makes Uncharted special, which is how tight the controls are, how the camera and how the character interacts with the environment. I mean, Naughty Dog, whether you like them or not, or you're a PlayStation guy or not, is one of the definitive developers
They really are.
in any console generation ever, because they've cemented that they know how to do it. And speaking of how camera worked, and it bugs me before, you go back to Uncharted 1 and 2 and 3 and you play that, no matter what is happening on screen, the camera never gets in the way.
They did have a really good
Even
camera.
when it flips up, forward, so you have to run towards the camera, they know how to do it and how to convey to you that feeling of this is how the controls work. That's just phenomenal on Naughty Dog's part. But I think Uncharted 2 for me is my favorite game this generation.
Really?
I've been thinking of it like the last, because I have to make my video. What I thought were my defining games. Uncharted 1 I loved. I love Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us, but Uncharted 2 hit this spot for me where I felt like if games were to end right now, I think this would be the pinnacle of gaming at this point. Just because of how they did the whole. And I understand. I know what you're gonna say, Joel. You don't like that they're moving more towards a movie type feeling.
Wow, you read my freaking mind. How did you know that's what I was going to say?
Because whenever somebody grumbles about Uncharted 2, that's the only argument they could possibly make. It feels too much like a movie.
I was going to half-hand it. I was going to say the Uncharted series is easily one of the most cinematic game franchises ever, that they really are trying to ape modern Hollywood blockbusters. And in many ways, they're better than Hollywood blockbusters, I dare say.
That's what I feel. Now, what are your guys' thoughts on the games? And we could get to Uncharted 3 after, because I have my problems with that game.
That's the only one I never played.
I've played all of them, and I can tell you this. When Uncharted first came out, it definitely felt like, this is going to be a PS3 exclusive. This is what it's going to be. With all the other games that were kind of, they were not the best. Lair, for example, oh my god, what a disappointment that piece of shit was. And then when you have something like Uncharted, it's like, this is where Naughty Dog's going, and it's pretty cool. It definitely kind of feels like a really big, the jungle environment. In fact, I kind of find it really funny. Have you guys noticed that every Naughty Dog game, there's always been jungle, city, and then desert?
Yep.
But I'm glad you bring it to that. And every Naughty Dog game, whenever they do that, they define what's possible in that environment in their games. No one has done snow better than Uncharted 2 since it came out, and no one's done desert better than Uncharted 3 and jungles in Uncharted 1. They literally define how the flora and the setting looks. Hats off to them, because they know what they're doing.
I never thought of it that way.
And you want to know the most amazing thing that I saw when I first played the first one? The water mechanics.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Beautiful. The moment that you step into the water, your clothes are soaking wet. It's incredible. It's like, I've never seen anything like this.
And if you're only half submerged,
I never actually noticed it, because when first playing Uncharted 1, because I never thought it would be there, and my wife's sitting there and she's looking over my shoulder and she goes, "Is he wet?" I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" She's like, go stand in that sunlight. And I did, and just suddenly I see it dripping and slowly drying. I was like, holy shit.
No, I find that hard to think that Armin didn't notice a wet, glistening man.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, he wasn't Chris Hemsworth, to be fair, and he wasn't shirtless, so...
True.
And Shay, I had to pretend I was all like, yeah, dude, that dude totally doesn't impress me. I mean, look at those pectorals.
Oh, yeah, dudes, I'm totally not into dudes.
I totally wouldn't lick whipped cream off those.
I love not Mal Reynolds or not quite Nathan Fillion.
Now, for better or for worse, Uncharted 3 is my least favorite in the series.
A lot of people feel that way. Now, I've never played it. Please tell me what's wrong with it.
Here's the thing. Uncharted 2 does the Hollywood thing so good. it pretty much defines what it's like to be an interactive movie where, you know, the characters and everything is so well done that you're just like, okay, that's awesome, right?
And they take it so far that they butcher the third installment like most Hollywood trilogies.
Well, they kind of try to, except towards the last half of the game, the last 5 chapters, you get no spoiler warning. If you haven't played it by now, it's not a big whatever. You get to Shangri-La, the Inner Earth, you know, Agartha, whatever you want to call it, and this whole big revelation happens on what is going on in the story. Now, you get sped through that part in 2 chapters. In 2 chapters that each take about 15 minutes, and the game ends. And the problem is, it felt like it needed more. And while that's happening, is, you know, all the set pieces that make Uncharted 2 stand out? They overdo them. They're like, well, you know how you're hanging off the train in the second game and no one expected that? Well, what if we do it, but no one expects it? It's like, but the problem is, I do expect it because I know what you're doing. Like, you know, they kind of just set up these pieces that were contrived for the purpose of being a blockbuster, not because they had a story moment.
Did they take control away from the player? Because I know that's been a bone of contention for me for this series, too, that I feel like it's always wrestling control away from me just to show me cool shit.
Kind of, and like, you know, and unlike in the second game where I didn't, you know, the boss fight at the end, yeah, whatever, that's kind of the only gripe with the thing. In this one, the boss fight is so underwhelming that you don't even remember what happened.
Worse than the second one? Because the second one had a pretty lame boss.
Oh, the second one, you know, there's the blue dude, Zoran, and, you know, he's throwing shit and you gotta shoot that crap, right? And that's it. The third one, literally, you just punch this dude and run away.
Really, I remember the first one wasn't great either. You basically just took cover, then you beat up Captain Hispanic Man.
I would have preferred that.
You know, I think that's the one thing that I like over Jak and Daxter over Uncharted. You see, with Jak and Daxter, they actually have very memorable villains. In Jak 1, you have Gul and Maya. In Jak 2, you have the Metalhead leader. In Jak 3, well, Count Vigor, and I'm not going to say another villain.
There's a lot of villains in Jak 3.
With Uncharted, they're not memorable. They're just a couple of guys and their sidekicks, and then you fight the sidekicks, with the exception of 2. But it's nothing really special. It's just like a punch or shooting with a gun. But with the Jak and Daxter series, you go with the white eco, and you just basically run and you jump all the way up because they're shooting off the dark eco bombs. And then in Jak 2, you fight off the Metalhead leader in this cave, and Metalheads are going after you. And in Jak 3, the final villain, he has like this giant robot, and he's basically throwing a whole bunch of crap at you. And you're like this really tiny person, and you're just trying to run around and not get hit and stuff.
It's like Shadow of the Colossus. It's great.
Oh, God.
I know,
you
we're
mentioned
really
Shadow, that's my favorite game ever.
Oh.
It's funny with Uncharted because they're taking so many notes from Indiana Jones. The one note they don't take is really good villains.
Oh, yeah.
What I wouldn't have given for a Kali Ma.
And, of course, this brings us to their most recent game, and depending on how you look at it, either their best game or it's overrated because we don't own we don't own a PlayStation 3. So, The Last of Us.
Just to generalize.
That's what it is. If you own a PS3, you think this is a masterpiece. If you're an Xbox guy, you think it's overrated, even though you never played it. That's what it comes down to. That's how it's split.
Armin explains it all.
So, The Last of Us is one of those games that I knew was going to be good, but I didn't know how good. And I never expected, spoilers, the twist that you're the ultimate D-bag in the apocalypse.
More or less. They even sum it up perfectly. I love when David is talking to Ellie, and you're hearing this from this horrible cannibal's point of view. He's saying, yeah, I sent some men in the city, but they got killed by a crazy man. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess from the other point of view, I seem pretty evil, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also with The Last of Us, I really like the way that they were able to take the zombie genre, which was getting extremely overused with Left 4 Dead and The Walking Dead and Dead Rising. There's a lot of deads in there, isn't there?
Yeah,
anyway,
dead.
Anyway, and they were able, instead of the zombies being just basically re-risen from the dead, they're actually infected with the Cordyceps, which I've actually known about it because I am a big fan of the Planet Earth documentaries.
Oh, yes.
I remember the jungle episode in which the huge fungus, the way that it was able to just attach itself with that ant, and then for days it was growing and it was infesting
Yep.
and it looked disturbing. And I was thinking to myself,
Exactly.
what would happen with a human? And it was like, oh my God, that
Well,
is
not
creepy.
only that, zombies are so overused, and the fact is, it's like they took it that one step further because they explain it when one of the twitchers is twitching,
Hmm.
whatever the hell you want to call it. They're not twitching because they're a zombie. They're twitching because it's their humanity fighting the infection, and they're momentarily snapping into their humanity. That's why when you grab some of them, they start begging for you not to kill them.
And they
Like
make a pretty creepy sound too. Click, click,
right.
click, 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 click,
It
click.
gives it this human feature that zombies don't have. A zombie is dead and they're just reanimated. They don't have any thoughts. In Uncharted, you're killing humans that are slightly just misguided due to this thing on their brain. They still have feelings and are remembering. They just can't do anything about it. Like that is a fucked up situation. When you look
Freaking
at it.
bloaters, man.
Oh,
I hate those.
oh, I hate the fucking bloaters.
You love in the final stretch of the game because obviously, hey, the one thing they actually learned this Naughty Dog game is they don't give you a traditional boss fight that would end up sucking. Instead, basically, pretty much the final challenge they give you is this huge, huge clicker gauntlet that you have to work your way through,
Uh-huh.
where
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
super overwhelmed.
Now, what was your guys' initial just overall experience with The Last of Us?
Overall, I really, really liked it. It was a completely different direction from what we
Hmm.
were used to with Naughty Dog. It was kind of like the first time in which I played Jak 2, and then I look at it as like Jak 1, it's like, wow, this is their direction they were going. As opposed to like, you see Uncharted 3, and it was supposed to be like a buddy duo kind of thing, and then you go to The Last of Us, like, holy crap, I'm gonna go grab some Oxycontin right now.
I think like when people watched me play it, like one of my best friends and Shay watched me play it, and she's just like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You're just walking around." I'm like, "Well, that's the best part. I hate the parts where I have to fight anything. I love just that world is so well crafted. Everything is
Hmm.
so well placed. Everything tells a story. The walls, how all the pictures on the walls are, the
There's
family, like it's storytelling through vision. They don't have to beat you over the head with anything, and it's a world you just want to explore. You just want to stand there and be like, okay, what happened here? And everything tells it to you.
I know I mentioned this in our initial review, and I'll bring it up again. There are rooms in this game that have nothing in it. That
Well,
is insane from
and
a game design
not
point of
only that,
view.
like I've been playing I've been replaying it because I'm just going through as slow as I can. And there's this one part where you're in this neighborhood and you can explore all the homes, right?
Hmm.
And there's a scene that I found. It's going up the stairs, but the stairs are broken, and there's a blood trail. And if you follow the blood trail, you'll see a little chips of the stair going down. In the basement, there's a clicker that's been stabbed through the eye, or through the brain, through the head, with a piece of wood. And on the other side is the dead person that was doing it, and they're holding like the other piece, almost like they were clinging for their life before they did it, but something went wrong and they died. That right there just tells the whole story of what happened.
And
Like,
lets you put it together for
right,
yourself,
it's
which is
little
always
moments
more
like
rewarding.
that I'm playing through this game and I stop by everything. I'm like, oh my God, like it's so genius. They don't have to tell me everything, and I like. There's no exposition here. They're not beating you over the head with, oh, here's what happened, here's what happened. And that's what Naughty Dog I think has perfected in their entire history. That's
Right.
no one does it like them. Honestly, I think they've perfected gaming. It's
And again, too, the supporting cast in this game, Naughty Dog, again, some really amazing supporting cast. Despite, having a title like The Last of Us, you actually have a lot of company for your trip, a lot of really well developed three-dimensional characters. Like,
Mhm.
I'll remember Tess and I'll remember
Yeah,
Bill and all those other characters.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's so well done. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah, Naughty Dog has always had consistently memorable characters. When you play Crash Bandicoot, you remember Crash, you remember Dr. Cortex, you remember Tiny, you remember Coco. When you play the Jak and Daxter series, you remember Jak, you remember Daxter, you remember Samos, Kira, you
Ecker.
remember Tor, you remember Ashley. In the Uncharted series, you have Nathan, you have Sully, you have Chloe, you have
All characters
Elena.
I liked better than Nathan, just saying.
Get the fuck out of here.
You know I'm right. Sully's a much better character than
If you're not
Kraven.
right about anything, I will attack you.
Bring it.
You don't know what you're saying.
Joel, you're drunk, go home.
Yeah. And to think that the Uncharted trilogy, the person who wrote the stories was a woman, Amy Hennig.
What? Huh.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's true. She was, and also, funny thing, every time I play The Last of Us and I get like those depressing moments, I know that Troy Baker is the voice of Joel, and I always think to myself, Troy Baker was the voice of Action Bastard from Crayon Shin-Chan. I can feel happy now.
And he was in the other big game that came out this year, BioShock Infinite.
Oh, I have yet to play it.
Oh.
Man,
I
Troy
love
Baker's...
the original BioShock.
we talked about that one a bit, too. Again,
I think
Troy
BioShock 1 is still a better game.
Oh my god, yes.
We've had this argument before. I still really like Infinite. I mean, I would play The Last of Us over again before I went back.
Joel, you're such a hipster. Get the hell out of here.
Damn your hipsterness.
Yeah, take your skinny jeans off and leave the podcast, okay? Just get the hell out of here.
Hey, man, have you seen me? You really think I could fit into a pair of skinny jeans?
Maybe you can just go over to Starbucks and listen to Belle and Sebastian.
On your iPod, on your some iProduct.
No, yep. he uses what do you call it? The Microsoft iPhone thing.
Ooh, I don't know.
The Zoom, yes, yeah, the Zoom.
I'll listen to it on my Zoom while I comb my mustache.
Now,
yeah, there you go. Listen to Miracle Legion and Magnetic Fields.
Now, let's talk for a second about the future of Naughty Dog, which, ever since Uncharted 3 happened, they split into two teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yes.
the one thing they said is, well, we have an unannounced project, and we have another game that's a sequel. The unannounced project, I'm assuming, is something new, because they always like to have a new franchise for a new console.
Which
unannounced
means,
project,
we can leave the other franchise behind until they get a racing game.
Unannounced project, it's got to be Uncharted 4. That it is so smart. I mean, and you know the whole marketing is Sony's just gonna be like, listen, it's 4, PlayStation 4, Uncharted 4, get it fucking done.
On the other hand, it could also be Jack and Daxter 4, because people have been craving for that ever since the third game, in which it kind of leaves a satisfying ending, but there are still a couple of loose ends. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil it.
They did the HD remix, so...
I would love a sequel to Jack. I don't have my hopes up, though. I think, after seeing what was done to Crash Bandicoot, I think they're going to leave Jack where he is, unfortunately, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you have to understand, given the fact that 3D platformers are not exactly all the rage anymore.
They're almost entirely dead, which breaks my heart.
How would you guys feel if they did... Okay, I know this is an automatic no, and I agree with it. The Last of Us 2. But.
No.
No. I said the same thing. But do not touch the story we have already.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, well, the infection happened. What happens in Europe? What happened in Russia? What happened in China? Give us something like that. Just give me more of that world and the master crafting they did. That's all I want. I don't want Ellie. I don't want Joel. I don't want them to be mentioned. I just want, tell me what else happened in this world and just make a good story, but do not touch anything related to Ellie and Joel's story ever again.
I could see it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't doubt it. That actually sounds like something that you would get. Like, hey, it's the brand new comic tie-in for The Last of Us.
Now, since we were talking about, has anybody here played Uncharted Golden Abyss?
I have.
And now, I told my story before I just got on here, so I'll tell it to the people listening. So I went to Best Buy today, and for $200, they had the 3G Vita. They had the Walking Dead video game, the good one from Telltale.
Yeah,
included with a memory stick, all for $200. So I saved like $120 on this deal. So I bought it. Now, how does it compare to the 3 Uncharteds that I'm used to?
Well, here's the deal. The characters that you do know of, they're not going to be showing up as much. They're going to be having 2 other characters that are supposed to be like the replacements for Sully and Elena.
I'm fine with that.
But the gameplay is actually pretty decent. I mean, with the Vita, of course, there is the option for you to use the screen in order for you to make jumps and then for you to slice down like pieces of wood.
So, like, is it contrived Vita features that they had to shove in there because it has a touch screen?
There are some moments in which it does feel like that, yes.
Okay.
But other than that, it's a pretty decent story. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be as memorable as, say, like with Uncharted 2, but it's pretty decent. I don't know how would I rank it amongst all the other Uncharted games, but the villain, well, once again, like I said, villains are not exactly very memorable in the Uncharted series, but
Nope.
it'll have to do. But other than that, what you expect with Uncharted plus with the PlayStation Vita, it's a pretty good experience. Definitely a nice game to get for the Vita, I would say so.
Yeah, because I'm going to start playing that, and I'll review that probably next episode. So get excited, guys. A review of a year-and-a-half old game from me.
You'll be playing your
And,
Uncharted Golden Abyss and completely ignoring Persona 4.
I'm just going to tell
because
you
don't
right
like
now, guys.
JRPGs.
Just tell you right now, it's a 9 out of 10. So
Just
if you're
right
waiting
now.
for a score, it's a 9 out of 10, okay?
Before he even plays
I don't
it.
need to play anything Naughty Dog to know it starts at a 10, and it can only get to a 9 or less, or higher. That's how a Naughty Dog's game works.
Look, if the touchscreen actually lets me comb Sully's mustache, then I will give it a 10. Just for, the mustache physics alone.
Unfortunately, Sully doesn't show up as much in the game.
Of course he doesn't.
Isn't it a prequel to the first Uncharted? That's what I
Yes.
heard? Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Makes sense. So there we go. Is there anything else Naughty Dog we got to talk about? We covered most of their stuff, I assume.
We
Most
talked
of them
about just
good
about
anyway.
everything.
Yeah. The good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean...
Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead. I was
just going to say, tune in next time where we're going to be talking about Insomniac.
Ooh, yeah. Well, actually, I was going to say, with a new Grand Theft Auto coming up, should we not really talk about
All right,
Rockstar?
there we go. Next podcast you guys are hearing here, we'll do Rockstar.
You're welcome, everybody.
Ooh.
I
can tell you about my life as a crime boss.
There you go. And my life also as a crime boss, and as a bully, and as a ping pong guy, and a detective, and everything else they've done.
That never happened. Shut up, Joel.
It all happened. You were there.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Patricia, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Like I said, guys, go to the Manic Expression channel. You can find most of her work. She posted there, and she also has her own YouTube, so check that out, and all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Thank you for joining us for Naughty Dog. And remember, Uncharted 2 is great despite what hipster Joel says.
What? I like that one. I just didn't play the third one.
You like that one, hipster.
Hipster Joel.